Well, hello, and welcome to Stop, Let's Team Up, episode 104, and this is going to be the first of a series of of team up books. I'd done a poll on team ups to pick an order and how I'm going to cover them. And the winner was Brave and the Bold, and then I gave a random selection of 4 Brave and the Bold comics, and everybody voted, and they picked Brave and the Bold 72, featuring the Flash and the Spectre. And I asked, because it is a Spectre, a somewhat horror character, I asked Billy from All Star Comics and Magazines and Monsters. Say hi, Billy.
Hey, what's up, man?
I thought you would be the perfect person for a Spectre comic. And a Zany Haney, because this is the pretty Zany Haney. I think this could be a case study in what the fuck is up with Bob Haney.
Yeah,
but
Bob.
I made that in a good way, because it gave me a giggle. But sometimes I don't think his intention was a giggle.
No.
But it's a very nice Silver Age comic. So let me give you the particulars from Mike's Amazing World. It came on sale April 20th, 1967. I was a tiny baby when this came out. It was cover dated July 1967. Editor was George Kasdan. I would like to know if he is any relation to the famous movie writer Kasdan. I didn't know. It is called, the title was Phantom Flash Cosmic Traitor. It's a 24-pager. It features the Spectre of Earth 2 and the Flash of Earth 1. Writer, Bob Haney. Penciler, Carmine Infatino. Inker, Charles Cudera. It has been reprinted twice. Showcase presents the Spectre, trade paperback in 2012, and Spectre, The Wrath of the Spectre Omnibus, hardcover, 2020. Ooh, I'd like to see what's in that Spectre Omnibus. The villain is the Ghost Ace and some unknown crook. And the synopsis from Mike's, this is long for Mike's, it's 4 sentences or 5 sentences. Mike's normally has 1-sentence synopsis. While on a visit to Earth 2, the Flash of Earth 1 is captured by 2 criminals. The crooks turn him over to the ghost of Luther Jarvis, a.k.a. the Ghost Ace. Jarvis intends to use the Flash as instrument for revenge against his former World War I squadron members. After turning the Flash into a spectral being under his control, the Ghost Ace kidnaps the former pilots and forces them to duel in the skies. The Spectre investigates the disappearance of the Ghost pilots and comes to their aid. He prevents their murder, then challenges the Ghost Ace to a fair fight. The Ghost Ace meets the Spectre's challenge and forces the Flash to battle the Spectre. Their battle takes them across the universe until Flash is finally restored to normal by a comet's tail. Having won his duel, the Spectre returns to Earth. The Ghost Ace then destroys himself, and the Flash returns home. All right. So, Billy, I'm going to let you go first. Just overview. What did you think of this comic?
So this was a first-time read for me, and I thought it was pretty crazy. But again, when you look at credits and you see Bob Haney, I totally expect it. But just looking at the cover, that drew me in. I had a chance to buy this comic at a show for a fairly low amount of money, not cheap, but something that was affordable. And I didn't buy it because I thought, you know what? I think I'm going to buy Brave and the Bold in trades, and I'm sure it's in there. And guess what? It's not.
Oh my God! Is it? See, and when I'm looking on the app, it's the issue after this is not.
No, 74 is where the paperbacks and the Omni started, where it was that's where it started with Batman, and was Batman from there to 200.
That's why. Okay, so the next issue, 73, is not even on the app.
Mm-hmm.
Which doesn't make any sense to me.
No.
I had never read this because I think I have read. Growing up, having an older brother who bought these, we had the first Team Up issue and the Teen Titans stuff. So I'd read those, and looking through, after the Green Arrow Martin Manhunter team up, it's kind of like they say it goes to a team up book. But there's other things in there. There's a Teen Titans and some other things. But Batman's not the regular until you said
74.
74, even though he did a bunch before that.
Yeah, he did a few before that, and then there was, everybody else under the sun as well. But 74 is when it became basically Batman and a partner.
Yeah, so I think the last one is Adam and Hawkman or something, but it's not on the app. I've never read this one either. I knew it would be strange. I didn't know it was a Haney one when I picked it. Because I let a random I did a randomizer to pick the numbers. So it picked this in 76, which is actually a good one. 76 is Batman Plastic Man.
Good stuff.
Yeah, and some of the others were just, standard, Batman team ups. Jim Aparo, but this is way before the Aparo era. So I knew it'd be good because, other Brave and the Bold team ups are the Starman, Dr. Fate, the Starman, Black Canary. So I was hoping Murphy Anderson or something. It was nice to see it be Carmine. I think it's Carmine because it was Flash. So let's start with the cover, because the cover is. Does it have the cover credits on this? No, it doesn't. I hate it when they don't have that.
It's Carmine Infantino and Murphy Anderson.
Yeah. So it's gorgeous. It's it's a checkerboard one.
They did sign it right below the plane there, but you have to expand it if you're reading on the app, to see it. It's barely there. I'm reading on an iPad, and you just really got to expand it.
I've got it on my phone, so I can have it in my hand while we're talking on it. But I love the cover. The cover is a beautiful Silver Age checkerboard, especially for how long was the checkerboard? 2 years, 3 years?
I think it was 2.5 years, from 66 to, or maybe it was only 2 years, 66 to 68, somewhere in there.
It is. I love it when they bring it back, when they retro it. I've listened to some of the checkerboard podcast. They're doing those. Have they finished, or are they still going?
Oh my God, no. There's 500 and some comics, and
and they're doing it in publication order, right?
I thought they were, but I think sometimes now they do kind of move stuff around a little bit. If they're recording an episode and it's about something that's kind of a bit of a slog, and the next one in production, was something else that's a slog. If it's Sugar and Spike, and then the next one is Bob Hope, they're oh God, we can't deal with this. So then they'll throw something a little better in there, like a Superman or something, to kind of break up the monotony.
I'd like to read the Bob Hopes just because I've only seen 1 or 2 of them in my life. They're weird.
And Jerry Lewis too.
Oh my God. And Adams drew some of that stuff. Yeah, it's weird, but it's, folks, those comics in the Silver Age, when they had those celebrity licenses, there was some weird stuff. The Sugar and Spike stuff's fun. I really like Sugar and Spike. So what did you think of the cover?
So I think the cover is fantastic. It was, just based off of the cover alone is why I wanted to buy this single issue on more than one occasion. I think it's absolutely incredible. Flash is in this ethereal form with Earth behind him. They're on the moon, I would assume, here, and he's punching the Spectre, and there's this wrecked plane, which I'm wondering how a biplane got to the moon. But, again, this anything crazy could be attributed to Haney. That's how I look at it.
Yeah, and we're going to have questions about biplanes later, I'm assuming. I have some serious questions. So why don't we get started? We'll just kind of go through it. It's got a nice, I like Silver Age comics because you get a second cover splash page thing. You know what I mean? You get the images telling you something's going to happen in the book, kinda, and the title. And I'm going to read this real quick. They give you that exciting title blur, and it's I always think I'm going to hear a movie trailer voice reading it. In a great gloomy hall in a sinister castle on the Rhine, 12 old men watch as their very lives hang in the balance, and they do, as their long-dead comrade flings down a challenge between two mighty antagonists, the Spectre and the Flash. Thus begins an incredible adventure that thunders through the very universe when one of the world's greatest superheroes becomes Phantom Flash, Cosmic Traitor. It's cheesy, but it's good. I love it. And then it's a single panel, and it's got the Spectre, a Flash that's been turned into some type of ethereal ghost, and the Ghost Ace, who just is an old World War I pilot, but he's ghostly. What did you think of the interior art? Because this is, I don't know this inker.
Yeah, I mean, I've heard the name before. I think it's Chuck Quidera, and it's okay. I will say this. Like, I haven't read very much. I've actually read more Golden Age or retroactively Golden Age Spectre stories than I have his Silver Age stuff. So I think the Spectre looks okay, but like I just felt like the inker here wasn't a good partner for Carmine, because I have a bunch of the trades that DC put out just a few years ago of the Silver Age Flash stuff, and it's Carmine Infantino and mostly Joe Giella, and then a little bit of Murphy Anderson sprinkled in here and there. And that stuff is incredible. It's fantastic. And it's way higher quality than what's inside this one.
Yeah, it is. I think it is. I am a big fan of Carmine in the 40s and through the Silver Age, but with specific inkers. Joe Giella, Murphy Anderson, they complement his art. If he doesn't have, and I'm not a fan of his Silver Age stuff at all. I mean, his Bronze Age stuff at all. I think, his Bronze Age Flash, especially toward the end, is just rushed. And he didn't have a good inker. But this is different. I think I don't know why you have picked certain inkers. This guy's name I don't recognize, so I'm assuming he didn't last long. But I appreciate why they probably picked Carmine, because he's the Flash artist. And at this point, did Spectre have a book?
No. See, right in this era, this book, I think, came out about 6 months before that Silver Age Spectre series started.
And that was, who did the art for that? That was...
Oh, boy. So I have 2 issues of that. I think it's issues 8 and 9, and that's only like a 10 or 12 issue run. It's a very short run, and it sprung out of 3 issues he did in Showcase. I think like 60, 61, and 64.
His next appearance after this is Spectre 1, and it's Murphy Anderson art.
Yeah, which, obviously, again, Murphy Anderson is an incredible artist, whether he's inking somebody or he's doing the art himself. He was incredible.
He is. He's one of the greats. It's Swanderson. I'm like, my Superman artist is always going to be Kurt Swan. And then Wayne Boring. I'm that person. But Swanderson, that 70s stuff, so good.
Great team.
Yeah.
Great art team.
But I find this a little, it's all right. It's not, it doesn't ruin it. It's just it's a Workman Carmine Flash story. I mean, that's what they're really going for. I think they're leaning into the Flash, and they using Carmine because they have that for the Flash. And then I don't think I don't know. The stuff with the Spectre, I like what they do with him. Yeah. But I have questions. So the first page of the story is the Flash is on Earth 2 visiting, and he's zooming around, and he's going, I'm going to go see my old buddy, the Spectre. Okay, I want to stop there. Is anybody a buddy with the Spectre?
Well, all I thought is, if we're talking about the Flash of Earth 1, he may know of and maybe met the Spectre from Earth 2 a couple of times.
He might have met him a couple times in a team-up.
But I don't think they're like big buddies by now. Or
I don't think
like Justice League maybe team-ups?
Well,
JSA?
It's Haney going and Kaz and going, whatever, it doesn't matter. But the Flash is chasing an armed robbery or a truck with a bunch of money in it. These guys are wheeling out a wheelbarrow of money from robbing a bank. Only in the Silver Age comics. And when the Flash comes through it, there's something going on in the truck that knocks him out, and they dump his body, and then he is picked up by a ghostly pilot. And then we get a lot of exposition, origin. But what did you think of the pilot? I mean, the design's weird.
Yeah, the character itself, I actually didn't realize this is his one and only appearance.
They're probably for good reason.
Yeah, and I thought to myself, because he kind of reminded me of that character, and I can't remember the character's name, but it was a world. It reminded me of that.
Yeah, I like the Phantomaze, yeah.
Yeah, so I thought, okay, cool. This guy's going to be, this reoccurring character, and he's going to be like that. So maybe this isn't the greatest, debut, but he'll gain momentum after this. And then I read, this is his one appearance. I was like, wow, they didn't really give this guy much of a chance, did they?
The Phantom Eagle, and he's a Marvel character, isn't he?
Yeah, or I was thinking of who's the character that Joe Kubert draw a lot of that he did those really good covers? Yes, it kind of reminded me were they going for that kind of vibe?
Yeah, yeah.
And obviously, Kubert's art is way levels above this here.
Oh, yeah. But he gets out of his plane and he turns the Flash into he looks like he's a cross between a cloud and cotton candy.
Well, and the guy's wearing clothes that are like 2 times too big for him as well. I will point that out.
Well, I think that I've seen some, but I think it's a little more accurate than you'd want to think that in World War II it was so cold because you were in open cockpits. They wore really cumbersome jumpsuits because it was so cold.
Yeah.
But I mean, you could have made him look a little more suave and a little more like, he does look like he's wearing his dad's old uniform.
Yeah, he uses some kind of powers with these eye beams, and he zaps the Flash who's laying there prone, and like this ethereal version, kind of like almost like a ghost or a spirit or something pops up, and he has control of it, like he can command him.
Yeah, and then we go to the castle on the Rhine where the members of this, I guess they're a British squadron, an American squadron during the war, and except for him, everyone else in his squadron survived. That would be a big deal because I think during World War I that fucking never happened. Because hell, half the time someone died because they just couldn't get back and they crashed. These are early airplanes, but I like the scene with them. It's like we go to the thing. You see all the people, and the Flash gets them in. And he tells them what's going to happen. I'm going to make you all fight to the death, pair you off until every one of you is dead.
I like how like all 12 guys dressed the same too. By the way, the exact same suit they all have on.
Yeah, it's still in the air. These guys are old, so they dress for dinner. We can't even get people to put pants on when they get on an airplane anymore.
They go to the grocery store in pajamas.
I don't want to see someone in a pair of soiled stewy pajamas in the grocery store.
Gross.
It's but yeah, he brings the Flash in and he does it, and then after that's all arranged, we're about 4 pages in, or more, 7 pages in, we see Jim Corrigan and the Spectre, and they separate and have a conversation. When did that happen? Is that
so? This must have happened in those 3 showcase issues or something, because the Spectre was just the Spectre in the Golden Age. He was just the Spectre. It really wasn't like a separate thing.
Corrigan was dead.
Yeah.
He's just using him as a shell.
In the Bronze Age, I've read a lot of that stuff, and I have, the Adventure Comics run, and in those, the Spectre and Jim Corrigan are like one and the same. Jim Corrigan's not a live guy. He's like I said, he's dead, but he's pretending to be alive, and he's like a cop. And during the day, he does cop stuff, and then at night, mostly, and sometimes during the day, but he will just change. It isn't like the Spectre in this, the way they visually, show us. The Spectre's almost like a spirit inside of Jim, and he comes out, and they're 2 separate entities. But that's not the case in the Bronze Age. In the Bronze Age, it's just he's all one person. He kind of just shape shifts into the Spectre, or from the Spectre into Jim Corrigan, and they're the same person.
Yeah, and then they have this conversation, and I want to know what they end up in the castle, and it's all kind of say the Spectre takes him there, I guess.
I'm guessing it's bizarre because
they go from police headquarters to the castle.
Yeah, if Jim Corrigan is a cop in the United States, what is he doing in this castle overseas? First of all, that has nothing to do with a cop. And I like to. It's funny. The 2 of them like do a bit of an investigation. And the Spectre uses his, supernatural whammy to kind of show this ghost pilot or ghost ace guy, and the Flash, like his spirit or whatever. And I like the very last panel on that page. I think it's page 8, where Jim Corrigan pretty much says to the Spectre, "Well, this is above my pay grade. You go take care of this, Spectre."
Yeah, that's what I was like. When has this been okay? And then he just spins the propeller on the wall, and it shows what he needs. And then he's flying off to the castle, so I don't really know. And that's the end of the chapter, because this is a 3, one of those great 3 chapters books. So you get like page 9 is only 2 panels because there would have been house ads. I'm looking on the app, and don't get to see the ads. So the second part is called I don't know, they didn't give them individual titles. That's sad. But the next thing is we see 2 of the pilots are fighting in the plane, and the Spectre shows up Oh yeah. Well, it's a Ghost Ace is battling. That's right. And he's about to shoot down one of the old men, and the Spectre's a giant, and he puts his hand in the way. And I like that. That I remember. The Spectre, he would always grow big.
Mm-hmm.
You know.
Yeah.
And he stops it, and then the Ghost Ace calls for help, and the Flash comes.
Yeah.
And then they all go back to the. Of course, we're gonna have the thing where the bad guy tells the hero what his plan is, and the Spectre. And we get a little backstory, and I want to say of art, there's some neat layouts in this, because you see the Spectre holding the plane as a giant speaking to the Ghost Ace. You're back in the room, and Carmine can lay out a book.
Mm-hmm.
So I kind of like this, the overview of the hall with the long table. But what I really like is some of the flashback, especially on page 14, where you see the Ghost Ace death. And his panel layout, where it's like one very long panel along the side of him crashing.
Yeah.
And then you got a stack of 5 panels, rectangular, with what happened next. And that, other than some of the inking choices, I'm looking on the app, so the color is enhanced.
Yeah.
I mean, it's still the primary blends, but it's it's digital, so it looks very clean. Are you reading it? What are you reading it in?
Just
online?
on the app. Yeah,
okay.
Just on the app.
Oh, good. It's on.
Because...
It's not on the. You don't need the Ultra for it. That's cool.
No, yeah. It's just it does bother me though. I could kick myself when that Spectre Omni came out. I should have bought it, but I looked at it and I thought, I have all the adventure comics. I have 2 of the 60s series. I have all the Brave and the Bold stuff. I just like when I look at an Omni and I have 30-40% of what's in that Omni. I can't do it. I can't buy it. I don't want to have the same comics in 2 and 3 different trades. It just drives me insane. But I should have bought it, because at least I would have been able to collect the rest of the 60s run, because those comics, I never hear anybody talk about that 1960s Spectre run. But if you go online and try to buy them, good luck. They're insanely expensive. Like a cheap one in tatters is like $10 or $15. And I'm like, I am not paying that. I can't afford it.
I remember, I think Dave and Pete on Earth 2 podcast did them.
Mm-hmm.
And they talk, and I think they did this one too. I have not gone back and listened to it. But they talk about, different things. But I may, if they ever reprint that, DC, there are some big announcements this week, folks, and DC is going to be pumping out a lot more hardcovers, compendiums, and omnis. Like July of next year, it's the Philip Johnson Superman run is going to be an omnibus. The same month as the second volume of Superman by Kurt Busiek. I bought volume 1, even though I have the oversized with his Carlos Pacheco stuff. But and a compendium, I forget what that is. It's just something I want, but I've still thought about buying that Phantom Stranger Omni just because I'd like to read it, and it's hard to find.
Yeah, if you see that on like a through a secondary source, like some of these other ones, keep an eye on cheap graphic novels and places like that, because if the price goes down because they're kind of sitting around and not selling, you might be able to find a good deal on it. Because that Phantom Stranger Omni is great.
And in most places it's like $85, so it's 30% off. There are so much stuff coming in, and I'm taking a pause. That's the one thing is if I get a little overtime, maybe I'll treat myself to that, because I'd like to see that. Because I've read maybe 3 Phantom Stranger, but I wouldn't mind the Spectre. I would like them to do. I've never read the John Ostrander version.
Yeah, I have a couple issues of that series that came out. When did that come out? In the late 80s?
Late 80s, early 90s, about the same time he was doing Suicide Squad.
Yeah, and I might have an issue or 2 of that, and that is it.
That's where the modern Mr. Terrific comes from.
Okay, I like him.
Yeah, he was created in that book by Ostrander.
Yeah, I really like that character.
Yeah, so I'd like to read, because I've read, my brother handed me the Flesher Aparo Spectres when I was a kid, and we've talked about that, and it was not age appropriate when it was handed to me.
No.
In any way, shape, or form, not age appropriate. No. And I think it is some of the best horror superhero comics ever written.
It's great.
Because it's just a horror story.
Mm-hmm.
But here he's a superhero. But I like this second chapter, and the art, the layouts I really like. There's a very nice 1960s Carmine Infatino page layout. It's nicely done. It just the art looks kind of weird. I'd like to see this in on like a regular copy of this to see how the colors would do muted somewhat with the, and also to have the dots. Folks, if you're very younger than me, some of us, that when you had on old comics used to be printed on newsprint, and if you looked at it closely, there were little dots that made up the color. Mm-hmm. So you could see that until they went to glossy paper, and they couldn't do a solid except black. A solid black was about the only solid they could do. So everything was kind of, and since there was only four color inks, you would get this you could see the two-tone mix. But it's different. I like it in here. I like the choice of some of the colors. The greens and golds and stuff like that. But this is when he decides to have the Spectre. The Spectre throws down the gauntlet, and he challenges Ghost Ace. So it's going to be the Spectre and the Flash fight. But they're going to be in biplanes. Why are they in biplanes? But, it starts on page 50. You see this battle start. And that's pretty good. The fight, the two planes flying over the lake. I guess it's the Rhine. And you can see the castle below. It's great. And some of the action is dynamic. Like on page 16, you see the things flying and they're shattering. They're shooting, I guess, super bullets or something, because chunks of mountains are falling off. They're going so fast that rocks fall apart and the water follows them, and they make a special sound, Varun. It's just crazy that it's like you had an almost omnipotent Ghost and the Flash having to fight in these super ghostly biplanes. What did you think of that battle?
Yeah, it was crazy. And now that I'm looking at it, when we first started talking about the interior art, I kind of like poo-pooed it a little bit. But now that I'm looking at it, really the only thing that I think does not look very good, or at least good, if not really good, is the Ghost pilot guy, the Ghost Ace guy. I think the way they drew him and the way they inked him and how I understand he's supposed to be kind of ghostly and ethereal, but that's really the only thing about it I don't like. Everything else is really solid. And like you said, it's good dogfight here, but yeah, I don't think machine guns on a biplane can like blow half a mountain apart. And then
we end chapter. Is that the end? 2. Yeah, we end chapter 2 with the Flash has gotten behind the Spectre, and there's a great caption. When the Spectre says upstairs, he means the whole universe, and it is the universe which rocks with action and fantastic shocks in part 3, which explodes on the 3rd page following. And then I love these, that they would have those little captions, and they have the little finger pointing to the next page.
To turn the page, yep.
Yeah, and now they're in outer space for part 3.
Yeah, Spectre basically says, I can't defeat the Flash on Earth with a biplane, so somehow I'm going to defeat him in space with a biplane. Okay, makes sense.
Yeah, and they're flying past like satellites and old rocket engines, and they're smashing into him. And Flash gets the better of the Spectre, shoots his plane. And then, oops, hold on.
It crashes on the moon?
Yeah, it crashes on the moon. I'm like, what the hell? So they crash on the moon. And then it becomes a fist fight.
Yeah.
Well, the Flash uses his powers, and I think I think if I was a 7-year-old kid in 1967, this would have been
cool. Great.
Yeah, because it's just these two guys fighting for 4 pages. But I think some of that art's pretty good. But I like what the Flash you're saying is he's kind of pink. He looks like cotton candy. For me, he looks like cotton candy. But it just becomes a fight scene.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
What did you think of some of this?
Oh, I thought it was great. I mean, the Flash is using his, super speed to try to get the advantage. And I did think to myself, I felt like they kind of depowered the Spectre a little bit here because they're, in the Golden Age and even, I should read those showcase books. I don't think they're on the app. Why not, DC? But anyway, I need to find those showcase issues to read because maybe they did kind of power him down in the Silver Age because, the stuff in the Bronze Age, he's basically he has these godlike powers. He can do anything. So he would have had no problem defeating the Flash here.
Oh no, yeah, it makes no sense.
It's crazy, yeah. It's like,
and he's not even talking about I want to think, but the Flash is, he's saying some stuff, but he's under the thrall. But then the Spectre flies away, and then he has the Flash chase him.
Mm-hmm.
And having the Flash run at speed, is that what makes him become solid again?
Well, I think it says something about a comet.
Oh, the comet tail, yeah. It looks like pea soup flying through space.
It looks like vomit. Yeah.
Yeah, it looks like Linda Blair in The Exorcist hurling, and that makes him become ethereal, stops being ethereal, and then the Spectre takes him back, and they fly their planes, and they have a tie. They cause them to crash into each other.
Yeah.
And that defeats the Ghost, and then it's just all of a sudden the Ghost is, he dissipates, I guess, like a cloud, and we have 2 panels of Corrigan, and the Spectre chatting, and Barry being late to yet another date with Iris.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they wrap it up really quick, for sure.
Yeah. I enjoyed this comic overall. I mean, I did, but I want to put this on a Zany scale. I would put this at like 11 out of 10 because it just, some of it, why are they in the airplanes?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I get trying to incorporate that because the villain was, the World War I flying ace type guy. I get that, but it was still really, really weird putting Flash and Spectre in opposing biplanes and making them fight. And then if that wasn't weird enough, making them fight in space and then crash on the moon and then fist fight. Again, it's what you expect from Bob Haney for sure.
It is, and this isn't even. I know he hasn't started to do Titans. He won't do Titans for a couple of years. And I think some of that is like that. And all of his Brave and the Bolds, because even though they get less silly, his plotting abilities are very odd. Because sometimes he'll give you the out, like it's either something very quickly. Oh, I can do this. Well, why didn't you mention that before? Or you find out like, oh, the character already knew something was going on and we just didn't see it.
He actually was already doing Titans at this point too.
Was he?
66 is when that started, and he was, if not from issue 1, very early on in that run, he started. And if you ever want to read anything like Bob Haney's, superhero stories like these, they're insane, they're crazy. But him trying to write teenage kids in the late 60s, and he was like probably 40 some years old, is just absolutely hilarious.
Yeah, it's got some great Nick Cardy art, and it's like I listened to Tighten Up the Defense, and they would just the picket signs became in it, and especially those early ones are very weird. I got both of the Silver Age omnibuses, because it's everything. They're nice, they were cheap, and I got them really cheap. And then I've got almost all the Wolfman Perez that's been collected. So I've been thinking about doing a reread from the beginning, but some of that Haney stuff is weird. But also some of it, I think his best work is in those Titans. That he did the Christmas story, right?
Oh yeah, yep, and that's been reprinted a bunch, so you can find that one on the app. And
I think it's the best holiday comic I've ever read.
100 different places, it's great.
Yeah. But overall, I like this one. I liked it. I love the team up. I haven't really covered them on the show that much, except once in a while when you and me have done a Marvel 2-in-1, or I covered a long run in 2-in-1 with the Spider-Woman Invisible, one of those 4-issue arcs, which I like about 2-in-1. So I'm going to talk to you about team-ups, because I'm covering all the team-up books. Did you have a favorite team-up book of the 4 biggies?
Well, I mean, for a long time, I was a strictly Marvel reader. That was like literally 99% of what I read was Marvel for a very long time, probably about 20 years. That's all I read was Marvel. So between Team Up and 2-in-1, oh boy, like I loved Spider-Man when I was a little kid. So I probably would give a slight edge to Team Up when I was younger, but now as I've gotten older, I think 2-in-1's better. I gravitate a little more towards Ben Grimm than I do Spider-Man.
Yeah,
but
I'm the same way. Yeah.
I'd say Brave and the Bold. I love the Brave and the Bold. It's
I think
literally
the Brave
my favorite.
and the Bold. I think for quality and consistency, because all 4 of those books had good runs. 2-in-1 and Marvel Team Up were the longest. Then 2-in-1 is third with 100 issues, and then DC Comics Presents in the high 80s, 90s. I'm not even
Something
sure.
like that. I think that might be 100 with the annuals as well.
Yeah, so I think I do not understand why they don't do team up books. I mean the modern market is very different. You have like Batman, which sells the most. People diehard comic fans, us like us, people complain about X-Men and Batman and Superman. Why they have so many books? Because they do sell to anybody else on the rack. If someone goes in and they don't know a lot about comics and they go into a comic shop, they know who Batman is, they know who Spider-Man is, they know who Superman is.
Mm-hmm. There just aren't enough readers right now to support any ancillary characters.
Yeah,
there's enough readers to support Superman and Batman and Spider-Man, but not much else.
Yeah, so I Marvel's doing they're making some changes. I understand. I talked to the guys at my comic shop about how the industry's going, and it's in one of those tough times. And but I think things like this sold because you put Superman or Batman in a book and then team them up with another character, and if they're smart, since they don't do letter pages unless certain comics have letter pages, and that's all based on the editor and the writer. If the writer wants a letter page in a comic, they'll put it in.
Oh, cool.
Because they'll respond to it. But it's very rare, and it's got to be a certain. I'm noticing that some books have it. But it was a way for us to fall in love with other characters. Like my first reading of Captain Britain was a team-up book, and it was Claremont and Byrne.
Yeah.
And I fell in love with Captain Britain. One, I love his original costume, but you had stuff like that. And then like in 2-in-1 and DC Comics presents it a little, but they would have little arcs. Not as often. Brave and the Bold never really did arcs. But Team Up and 2-in-1 did some classic stories in these team-ups. I'm going to look at my shelf that I just rearranged, and I've got two that are those thing hardcovers, the Project Pegasus and the Serpent Crown Affair.
Yeah.
Those are amazing.
Yeah, those are fun.
Yeah, and it's high quality. I mean, I think the writing on both Team Up and 2-in-1 was stellar. Sometimes you'd have up and down art. Team Up had Sal, which is always helpful.
Yeah, great.
But I like Ron Wilson. Ron Wilson grew on
me
as an art. Yeah.
He's good. He's good artist.
Good. Yeah, especially his Thing series too. When when Byrne's writing the Thing and Wilson is just doing a Thing comic book, he stepped up his game a bit, I think. He felt like he was doing a bigger book or something. I don't know, but that Thing series is really good too. But
yeah, it's fun.
I like all of them. I mean, I have a soft spot for all four. I really can't. I like them all, and I like other iterations. There was a Marvel team-up book Robert Kirkman wrote, which was a good. I've got some of the trades. I wish I had all of them because there's some good stuff in there. They did a Marvel 2-in-1 that was 12 issues, and it was just Johnny and Ben, and it was one adventure while Sue and Reed were supposedly dead and missing, and it was a really good series.
Wow, I didn't hear that one.
Oh, it's out in 2 trades, and you can get them on like cheap graphic novels for like half price. And it was during it was right before the Dan Slott era, at the end of another era. It was pretty good. I liked it more than I liked the FF book at the time. So. But it was just those two grieving. It was about grief.
Okay.
Yeah, it was a little deeper. And Ben tries to trick Johnny into go looking for Reed and Sue when Ben thinks that they're dead, and he doesn't want to tell. He doesn't want to tell Johnny.
Yeah.
So he gives Johnny a distraction, and then Johnny finds out and is pretty pissed off. It's a good story. But I like some of these Silver Age ones. So I'm hoping people pick more because I'm going to put the team up after this post. The 4 random choices for Marvel Team Up because it's next in line. But I just like this one. I really liked it. I like these Silver Age ones. It was fun. It was silly, and I was glad you were available to talk about it because I was like, oh, it's a Zany Haney, and it is so truly bizarre. I got to get Billy on for this one.
And I will say, I don't think this is any coincidence either. It's a crazy comic by Bob Haney, and it was released on 4/20. April 20th. So.
That makes sense.
I don't think there's any coincidence there.
Oh no. I know. I think there were. I definitely know in the Marvel bullpen there were some people smoking weed, but I'm not sure, man. It's the late '60s. Even 40-year-old men in New York knew where to get a joint. as my mother would say, a Mary Jane cigarette.
Mm-hmm.
You're not smoking that Mary Jane cigarette in my house. No, Mom, I'm using a pipe. But yeah, this stuff's weird, and I loved it. It was something I needed that day. I picked it and I said, oh, I might make sure it was on the app, because the app is weird with the things that are missing. Even with the Ultra, there's weird gaps.
Yeah.
And I think I've read that Hawkman Adam team up that's after this. I think my brother had that. But I'm surprised it's not on the app. I don't know what's going on. I know if DC's going to start doing more omnibuses, and they're doing those DC Finest, which is their answer to the Epic collections, and they just announced the next 10. There's some good. I don't need most of them because I've got them in other forms. But there's a Peacemaker one coming out. There's a Wonder Woman one I'm interested in. There's some, especially in the second wave, they're doing some neat stuff, and they're going to jump around. So I hope they do a Spectre one. And that this
that would be great.
Yeah, and that would be this would be, or do a showcase. If you really DC, if you think about it, and think about the older readers who will buy it. You don't have to do huge print runs, and you can charge put it in a compendium or put it in an omnibus. If you were to put showcase 1 through 25, I think you'd get buyers.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. Yeah. I mean, or this, because there's some stuff in Showcase that's really odd when you go on it. That Showcase 100, which is probably isn't in the app, and some of these team ups. I was thinking it was a license thing with the next one. Maybe it was G.I. Joe, or maybe it was whatever license DC had at the time. They might have had Tarzan at this point, or Robin Hood.
Yeah.
Because that's the only reason certain things are missing from the Marvel 2-in-1 and Marvel Team Up collections. If they would do, they haven't even done a Marvel Team Up Epic.
No.
And they solicited a third 2-in-1.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, it's not number 3. It's like number 5. It's because they do them out of order. So I'm looking forward to that. All right, Billy. Hey, thank you for coming on and rambling with me about this Zany comic. Where can people find you? And what's going on with you right now?
I'm floating around out there on the Twitters. It's not X, it's Twitter. You can find me there. It's my screen name is Doc Strange. You can find me there. It's at BillyD_licious. And then Magazines and Monsters, like you said, it's kind of like a catch-all for most of everything I talk about, which is comics, and then sneaking in some old school sci-fi horror movies as well. And then, you and I actually not too terribly long ago put out an episode on my All-Star Squadron feed. We did an issue of, what was it, DC Comics Presents maybe, or something like that? I'm trying to think of it.
Oh, my goodness, I can't remember. I've done so many. It was a DC Comics Present of some sort, yeah.
I think so.
And there's some other stuff I'd like to talk to you about. I know you got some stuff planned because I'm going to do another 2-in-1, so I might bug you if it ends up being one of if I get a horror one, I know I'll probably be calling you around.
Yeah, horror or Doctor Strange, I'm your guy.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. I hope we get a Doctor Strange team. Oh, I do have one for you, and we'll talk about it after because I need to get that one playing and give you some time to do some reading. All right, folks. Hey, as always, thanks for listening. This is going to go up the day I record it, most likely, or the Sunday after, and then there'll be an Opal City Comics Presents where I finish off the Infernal Devices arc where Jack teams up with the ghost of the Black Pirate. So I'll be covering that Starman issue and the final appearance of the Black Pirate in his own series from Sensation Comics. That is something I would love for them to, having gone and looked at a few of those Sheldon Moldoff drawn Pirate Phantom, Pirate Ghost, whatever his name, Black Pirate. Thank you.
Yep.
It's gorgeous. It's gorgeous. So, but as always, folks, hey, thanks for listening. Be smart, be safe. Please be kind to one another. It's a crazy, weird world out there. And read some comics. Read some team-up comics.